And I said, if you wait, it'll just be a waste of time because there's nothing that. He said, well, I'm not worried about you, but you know that there can always be trouble. This is a white school, and you're going. I said, well, I've been to this campus before. I've had nothing but warm receptions from everybody, and I don't think there's going to be any trouble at all. He said, okay, good luck. See you later. So I got out of the car and headed for class, and that was the beginning of the most wonderful 4 years, hard 4 years, but most wonderful 4 years that you can imagine. I graduated from Mercer. I had taken the Reserve Officers Training Corps courses.
ROTC.
I got ROTC. I got my commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Army, which if anybody had told me before I actually enrolled in Mercer that I'd end up in the Army, I probably would have hit them because that wasn't my idea of a good time. And I told my wife after we got married, I said, well, we're going to go in the Army. We're only going to stay 3 years. I'm going to get out and come back here and maybe teach or do something. Well, and she tells people all the time, the 3 years turned into 6 years, 6 turned into 10, and 25 and a half years later we retired. But we had a good career, and she's retired now too. And I worked a couple of civilian jobs after I retired from the Army, and I'm totally retired now. But I tell people all the time that it all started with Mercer University, and they came looking for me or someone like me, a black person to go to their school. And to their credit, you know, that there wasn't any, at least when I went in, there wasn't any. And Dean Joe had told me that. He says, there's not going to be any riots, there's not going to be any trouble, you're going to be fine. We have prepared the students for your arrival in September. And we're not going to have any cops hanging around, not going to have any news people. You're just going to be a normal college student as far as you can be. And that's the way it was, you know. And Mercer University, I tell people that I have all kinds of rings and trinkets and chains that I've accumulated over the years, but I'm not a real big jewelry guy, but there's 2 pieces of jewelry that I wear. This one, for obvious reasons, the love of my life that made me put this on to keep me, after 48 years, I'm still wearing it. And this one is my Mercer class ring that I graduated. And I love this one too, and what it represents. It's a different kind of love, but just as much as what this one represents. But Mercer was the be-all and end-all, and I say by the grace of God, he delivered me there, and Mercer took care of the rest. So that's my 3 minutes. That's probably 10.
Okay, Mr. Honey.
Yeah, I have the 3 seconds there. The name is Sam Oni. I was born in the Gold Coast, on the West African coast. The Gold Coast changed its name in 1957 to Ghana, and I'm sure many of you in this class might have heard of Ghana. Anybody heard of Ghana? Well, the other part of that story is I'm also a Nigerian by virtue of my parents. Just think of your parents moving to Mexico and you being born in Mexico. You can still claim your Americanness as well as your Mexicanness, if there's such a word. And it was I was a Christian. I was born into a Christian home. We were Anglicans, which is to say Episcopalian. You're familiar with Episcopalians, and I know most of you. I don't think there's a soul here that doesn't know about the Baptists, but Episcopalians are a part or a branch of the Anglican, which is the Church of England. So I was a Christian, and I mentioned that because later on, as a youngster, when I met some American missionaries, and they began talking to me with a view to convert me to Christianity. And I kept saying to them, well, I've been a Christian all my life. And they persisted in saying, well, you know, that version of the Christian faith that you embrace wasn't quite good enough. And one thing led to another. I had to be born again, Benny Stevens. They insisted, and who was I to argue with them? So I was initiated into the Baptist branch of the Christian faith. I was rebaptized, which is by immersion. You know what I mean by that? None of this business of dabbing your forehead and so they insisted that if you're born again, you got to be baptized by immersion, just like John the Baptist did to Jesus. So I accepted it. And that was the beginning of my relationship with the Southern Baptist missionaries. The Southern Baptist missionaries' incursion into my part of the world dates way back. It actually happened in the year 1850 when a missionary by the name of, what was his name? You don't remember? I thought he was your classmate. Robert Bowen. No, Thomas Bowen, I beg your pardon. He arrived among my people in 1850. And I'm sure each one of you here have your concepts, your images of Africa. The jungle, wild, savages. Well, this was 1850. Whatever you know about Africa now was, you can multiply that by 10 instead of being backward and being populated by savages and heathens and so on and so forth. He arrived and something strange happened. My people didn't make a barbecued missionary out of him and his wife. As a matter of fact, the opposite happened. My people received him and his wife with warmth, gave them great hospitality, and protected them, fed them. The reception was so compelling that when Mrs. Bowen had a baby girl, they named that child Yoruba, Youruba. That happens to be the name of my ethnic group or tribe. So the kind of reception that they received from these savages and heathens and non-believers was such that they were so touched by that they named their first child Yoruba. When I read that story, I was almost moved to tears, because I think it speaks volumes for the kinds of people that we were before the white man came. We have a saying in Africa, and it goes like this. Before the white man, when we met the white man, we had our land. The white man, that is to say the missionary, taught us to pray. We closed our eyes in fervent prayers. By the time we opened our eyes, the land had gone to the white man, and we were stuck with what? His Bible. Yeah, you may think that that's an oversimplification, but it's a statement that's loaded with all kinds of truth. What I forgot to say to tell you about Thomas Bowen was the fact that life is filled with all kinds of ironies and coincidences and paradoxes. Thomas Bowen came from Georgia. Anybody knows where Jackson County is?
Yes.
Where is it?
It was the Jackson County that I'm thinking of, right above Locust Grove.
Okay.
So
So,
right below,
Right below?
below Lucas.
Oh,
or
okay.
between. What?
Yeah.
Between, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, he came, he was accepted, he stayed among my people, they didn't eat him alive or his wife. And then other missionaries, come right in, and other missionaries began to follow in his footsteps. And it was